What if your summer didn't have to be a tug-of-war between getting things done and soaking up the sun? In this monthly episode for June 2025, Nancy and I explore how you can embrace the expansive energy of summer by finding a pleasurable and intentional balance between productivity and play. We also reflect on the big emotional shifts we moved through in May, like scarcity fears, core wounds around belonging, and the stories that hold us back. And we share how those insights are fueling our summer visions. You can expect gardening metaphors, personal stories, perspective shifts, literally and metaphorically, and an invitation to infuse your business with more joy, ease, and aliveness this summer. I really hope you enjoy this deeply rested conversation. Welcome to Deeply Rested, the podcast that helps people doing good work in the world take incredibly good care of themselves. I'm your host, retired therapist and disillusioned business coach, Megan Megginson. I'm on a mission to help people like you unlearn the rules that keep you trapped in self-doubt so that you can recover from burnout and finally become deeply rested. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and join our weekly newsletter at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. Now, it's time for the show. Hey, Nancy.
Hi, Megan.
Welcome back to the podcast that you listen to literally every day.
Thank you so much.
Oh, how you doing?
Glad to be here. Good. I'm doing well this morning.
Yeah? Like, what's one thing that's gone well for you this morning?
I took a little garden tour this morning, and
God, so did I.
of the things are popping up. I've got dahlias in various states of coming out of the ground. I'm most excited about all the corn that's popping up. I planted it all by seed, and that's just my favorite thing to watch grow every year. I don't know why.
Corn?
It just is, yeah.
Such an
It's
American
like
thing to
a
say.
battle with the wind every spring. I know, gosh. So ingrained and
I mean, I
conditioned.
love corn, just to be clear. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a battle with the wind, meaning like you watch them, like you watch the resiliency of the
They
corn.
come up out of the ground, and then one day we'll have a windstorm, and I'll go out the next day, and they'll all be sideways and laying flat. And then over the next couple of days, they right themselves, and then another windstorm will bend them the other way. So I always like to cheer them on every spring.
What great teachers. Nature's going to knock you down, and then you just got to right yourself and get on with it.
Yep.
I also did a garden tour this morning. I love that. Yeah, we had the same morning. I was just like on the ground. I love taking portrait mode photos on my iPhone. Like, how cool is that? We can just take these amazing photos with our phones. And I was just taking photos of all my little blooms. And I was just like, you look fucking fabulous.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure the people walking their dogs are like, that lady is out to lunch. Like, there is something wrong with her. I don't care. It's so precious this time, which I imagine we're going to talk more about today too, right? This time of year when like we can fully feel the transition of the season, like the growth is happening. I love that so much. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so you did a garden tour. We're talking about corn. We're talking about plants. We're talking about professional iPhone photography. I love all of these things. And I think it really actually sets the stage so nicely for the introduction of our theme for the month of June, which is balancing play and productivity during the summer months, which we're already starting to do, but we're going to get so deep into it today. And I can't wait.
Yeah, I wore polka dots for the occasion.
Hell
since
yeah,
we're
you
talking about
did.
fun and play.
What's more fun than polka dots?
Exactly.
Literally nothing. Polka dots and corn.
If you ever wanted to know more about me, polka dots and corn.
Polka dots and corn. And crawfish.
And crawfish. That's really important. Yeah.
Polka dots. Everyone, I'm pleased to introduce you to Nancy Guidry, lover of polka dots, corn, and crawfish. And this is what we're doing today. We're talking about fun. We're talking about play. Okay, we're going to officially get started now. Although, listeners, Nancy and I have been talking about, we want to just get more comfortable on these podcast interviews. My favorite podcasts are the ones where people just sound like themselves. And you and I have talked before about when we stop recording and then we start talking about how the recording went, all of a sudden we just sound totally different. Yeah. Right? Our energy, our demeanor. And I think that's part of what I want to be open about with people listening is you just got to put yourself out there and practice and let it become more natural over time. It doesn't start out perfect. And you and I are learning as we go. So maybe this is a great quick moment to plug our listener survey, which we link in every episode, in the show notes of every episode. We want to hear what are you liking about this? It's growing, it's evolving, and we want listener feedback to know, do you like it when Nancy and I have a little chat, or are you bored out of your mind? I don't know, but you can tell us.
Thank you to everyone who has responded to that survey so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will admit I haven't looked at it yet. I'm a little nervous. I know you have. It's great. What's the best thing, and what's the thing that you're seeing? Maybe, hey, we should change this.
Oh, gosh. I feel like the best thing so far is that most of the people who have responded say that they tune in for almost every episode, which is really amazing to know that there are people that just listen to everything. I'll have to get back to you on the other part.
Okay.
Because I haven't looked at it in a minute.
I commit to looking it over thoroughly before our next monthly recording. Yeah. So we can circle back and chat about it. I'm pretty good at asking for feedback, and I'm really good at avoiding looking at said feedback.
Megan just makes me look at the feedback.
That's right. I'm Nancy, could you read these survey results and give me the summary? And yeah, it's awesome, but I should probably add that to my list of blocks and obstacles to work on. Okay, that is true and funny. And here we go. June, balancing play and productivity. Here's the deal. You and I were talking about this. Summer does not begin until summer solstice on June 20th. But as a society, it's we've collectively decided that summer actually starts after Memorial Day. And, that's when kids get out of school, summer vacation starts. And I do think there's larger social commentary about that, about how our society is out of sync with the natural rhythm of the seasons. How most people's spring break is in the dead of winter. People who have spring breaks in February or early March. It's what? It's still winter. What are you doing? And summer vacation begins in spring. And there are all of these ways we can see how our society is out of sync with nature's rhythms. And I think that's worth naming because it shows up in our businesses too. And that's often a lot of the internal distress we feel is our body wants to sync with nature, but we are trying to be in the rhythm of society. And there's an incongruency about that our bodies know and feel the stress of. So we're working with this tension, right? Of our society says that summer starts now, even though summer doesn't really start for another month, but we have to play with this balance. So something that Nancy and I wanted to offer up this month is a really intentional transition, a transition from spring into summer, both in our life and in our business. So thinking about how can we use June as a month to start having summer fun, but also to be really deepening into what intentions we want to set for nature's summer, which starts on June 20th on the solstice. And then summer really is, end of June, July, August, September. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how we are transitioning into summer. And we're going to have a really specific conversation about how we can find a balance between play and productivity during the summer months. What do you think about everything I'm saying right now?
Yeah, I love that. I know for myself, when summertime starts to roll around and the days are getting longer, we approach the solstice, the longest day of the year, I personally only want to lean into play. So I think it's a really good conversation to have and prep ourselves for balancing those two things, play and productivity.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel that too. I think so many people feel that tension where like you feel the big energy of summer and you want to lean into it. You want to play. But I do think it's worth zooming out a little bit and recognizing that summer is such an expansive season. We have, so many hours of daylight. There's so much energy. There's so much growth happening. Like our internal capacity during the summer month is expanded, which means I think that there's actually room to do both. Like that there is room during the summer months to play and be so connected to the vitality of our lives while also creating some big growth in our businesses, like really capitalizing on the energy of summer to move some projects forward in your business. We have the most capacity energetically during the summer. How can we highlight that and amplify it? And the answer to that question is intention. If we approach it with intention, we can really enjoy all of the capacity and energy that's available to us during the summer months. At least that's our working hypothesis for this summer. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm really excited to talk about this, but I do feel like we should jump back for a minute into the month of May. Reviewing May, kind of talking about what the theme was, how it went for us. What do you think? Is that a good idea?
Yeah, sounds great. So our theme for May was removing obstacles and finding flow. And for us, what that meant was really intentionally taking the time to do the inner work necessary to be able to even first identify what the obstacles getting in our way are, to identify them, acknowledge them, and then start taking action to let them go, release them, so that if they come back in the future, which, let's be real, they likely will, but they might not loom as large, and they might be a little easier to deal with and overcome the next time around. So, yeah, that was the theme for May.
It reminds me of, I might have said this in the May episode, I don't remember. In fact, I often, when we're done recording, I almost immediately forget everything that we talked about. I don't know if that's just like a Megan thing or a most people thing, but it just gets wiped from my memory bank. Having these conversations where we go back and revisit it, it's like I'm experiencing it again for the first time. And that's special. May was a big month energetically for me, for the clients that we work with, for so many people in my personal life. It's a meaty month, and there was a lot of energy moving in the month of May. So it was really perfectly aligned with our focus being obstacles, like looking at what is it that's really blocking us? What inner work do we need to do to clear the way for growth and expansion as we move into the summer months? We have 3 reflection questions we want to offer you today that you can use to review what happened for you in May. And you can just think about them while you're driving to work, or you can journal about them. You can talk to a friend about them. You can use these questions however it feels most helpful for you. Here are the questions. 1, what obstacles did you become aware of during the month of May? 2, what did you do to remove these obstacles or heal these wounds, however you want to think about it? And 3, how are you committing to working with these inner blocks moving forward? Because like you said, it's unrealistic to think that 1 month of focused attention and then poof, like we have no more blocks or limitations. No, they will be with us forever, which is partially why it's helpful every now and then to really slow down and say, I'm going to focus on this process. How do I want to meet my blocks when they emerge so that it becomes more second nature? And we're not bypassing, we're not avoiding, like we know exactly how to be with the inner work that is moving through us while we are working on our businesses, right? While we're living our life in the world, finding that balance. So those are the 3 questions. What obstacles did you recognize? What did you do to remove the obstacle? How are you committing to working with your inner blocks moving forward? Nancy, you want to share an example of what showed up for you last month?
Sure. So one of the obstacles that showed up and kind of was loomed the largest was financial scarcity and fears around financial scarcity. Basically, what I did is first, I did some really practical things, created a budget. Sometimes it feels a little embarrassing that I've like gotten this far in life without following an actual budget because I know so many people are really gifted and good at that. This is not my forte. And so I created a budget with my husband, and we're like, it's rooted in reality. It's a budget that we can stick to and follow so far anyway. And it's a sense of security there because I can like actually see what's really happening. So we've been doing budgeting, working with a financial planner. And then another thing that I did, I'm going to pause for a minute of story time to explain how I came about this last thing that I did to confront fears of scarcity. And it goes back to when I was in college taking a photography class. I minored in photography, and one of the things that's really stuck with me ever since was one day we had a guest speaker, and she was a photojournalist from a local publication, and she came into the class and she was talking about how to get like really creative shots. She's like an award-winning photographer, and she's like, here's how you can get like some really unique creative shots that stand out. And she's like, let's say you're photographing like a still life on a table. You could walk up to it, stand in front of it, put your camera to your eye, take the picture. Great. She's like, or you could do that, and then you could lay on the ground and look at it again and see what that perspective looks like. You could climb up on a ladder and look down from above and see what that perspective looks like. You could stand sideways and look at it just from a slight angle. And so she was all about getting a unique perspective and a unique or unexpected point of view on the subject. And that is something that stuck with me ever since. And I have applied that in various aspects of my life. And one of the ways that I went back to that lesson was thinking about this financial scarcity. And it's like, how can I look at this from another perspective? What's a different angle? What's a perspective that might make this obstacle not look as big as me just standing in front of it, And so one of the things that came around for me was looking at this obstacle and transposing it into a gratitude practice. And so every time I felt that scarcity kind of bubble up in my body, it's like, okay, we're going to flip it around, and I'm going to instead look around at everything around me. The people around me, my home, like all of the things that I've got in abundance, and really show gratitude for that. So it was a little bit about perspective shifting and then taking actual grounded action steps. But yeah, it's been feeling really good and has helped a lot. So that's what I focused on in May.
That is so rich, pun intended. When you said story time, like I immediately felt 5 years old. I just want to say. You were like, I just immediately felt like I was 5 years old at the library listening to story time, and your story didn't disappoint. So thank you for sharing. There's so many powerful applications of that lesson, of that story, of like, how can I just look at this from a different angle? How can I change my perspective? And the way you were able to release, or are in the process of like releasing fear and replacing it with this grounded gratitude. Wow, that is really powerful. It makes me want to just slow down and reflect on like, where are all of the different places that fear shows up in my life. It is often scarcity related, but could be other things too. And how can I flip the perspective and maybe replace it with gratitude and then just see what happens?
Yeah.
There's like a real sense of curiosity too as I listen to your story of like, I'm going to do this and then I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing. That's so juicy. Okay, I'll share an example of one of the things I was working with last month / my whole life / the rest of my life. I think I named it in the last conversation. What I lovingly referred to as like my black sheep wound, right? Just this kind of childhood experience of one of these things is not like the other. And how that kind of wove itself into my DNA, right? This belief that I don't belong, or that who I am or what I want isn't a fit for the community. And I think like as a kid and as a young adult, that often showed up for me in people pleasing, right? I would alter myself just enough to be easily accepted by the tribe, right? To be easily accepted in the community. Or if I made a suggestion for the group about like what we should do or what I wanted, it was always coming through the lens of what I knew or what I thought I knew would be acceptable to everybody else. I don't want to rock the boat. I want to fit in here. So many of our core wounds come back to either like scarcity or belonging. And I'm saying this here on this business podcast because this is also true in our businesses, that like so many of the business challenges that we have can be traced down to a core wound around scarcity or belonging. So you're talking about scarcity, I'm talking about belonging. And for me in my business today, the way that wound shows up is in this limiting belief that people don't want what I want. That people, aka potential clients, won't want to say yes to the kind of offerings that are the most authentic expression of my soul. So then what do? I accommodate, right? I like take the essence of what my soul wants and then I shape shift it into something that is somewhat connected to what I actually want, but is wrapped up in a costume. It's like wrapped up in layers of what I know other people definitely will want. I think Next Level Therapist is a great example of that. The program that we ran a couple of years ago. That was great. And I loved so many things about it and it was so effective and successful. And it wasn't actually what I wanted to do. It was a little bit of what I wanted wrapped up in what I knew would sell and what I knew other people were willing to say yes to. Is this making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this is May. Black sheep wound. I'm aware now that this wound is showing up as this limiting belief that people don't want what I want, which leads to this people pleasing and this perfectionism, right? I want to like please everybody else and I want it to like be really dialed in and buttoned up. And every time I do that, it takes me further and further away from the prayers of my heart, which are to create these really transformative and deeply healing retreat spaces for people to come and have profound experiences that they can then take and integrate back into their lives, into their businesses that will make everything better for them, but then most importantly, ripple effect out into the world. And I can see it in my mind, right? I can see how this vision has the ability to create a really powerful systemic change in the world. And I can see how my black sheep wound and the limiting belief that people don't want what I want block me from doing all of the things that need to be done, chopping all of the wood and carrying all of the buckets of water that need to be done for that vision to become real. So that was like the obstacle I was really seeing and understanding and unpacking. So what did I do? What did I do to remove the obstacle? I did a lot of things, but two things in particular. One was inner work and one was outer work. And I think it's the combo of those two things that's really important. So the outer work that I did was to take action, to chop the wood and carry the water, so to speak, to make the retreat vision a reality. I was like, if this is what I want, if this is what we want, then we need to just do it. Like, just do it, like just get out of your own way, move the block out of the flow of your river. So we moved the block by taking action, and the flow that we experienced as a result was booking our fall retreat. So we are booked. We'll talk more about that at the end of this conversation. October 9th through 13th, here, about an hour outside of Portland, Oregon, where Nancy and I live. The next retreat is booked. And we've started to take really actionable steps towards planning it and also calling in new resources, right? I've been doing more learning and studying from people who teach retreat facilitation as a business model. It's like more flow is coming in around this idea. I'm being really intentional about saying out loud to as many people as I can, this is the vision. This is what I want. This is what I'm working on. And every time I take action or say it out loud, I can feel myself getting a little bit stronger, right? I can feel that limiting belief like disintegrating just a little bit at a time. So that's the outer work, the taking action. And the inner work is just this past weekend, I did a big mushroom journey, which is a sacred medicine that really is so helpful for me in my process of like, it helps me to clear things out. Starting to feel with this particular story and wound, being like, I've done so much work around this. You know, I've done all the therapy, like I've done cognitive work, I've done emotional work, but it's still like, feels like dead skin that's like stuck inside of my body. And when I start to feel that way, it's a really good like little aha for me that this relationship that I have, this particular medicine is really helpful in like clearing out what I have processed, what I have digested, and what is no longer serving me. And in that journey, something that really became clear to me, I didn't see so clearly beforehand, was that I was still carrying a lot of grief in my body about all of the losses that I experienced in 2024. I just went through a lot of loss. And I could feel that in order to release the black sheep wounds and some of these old stories and take more action, I also had to release all this grief in my body. And that just reminded me that so often we are only looking at our blocks on like one level, you know, that we're like, oh, I have money scarcity, you know, oh, I have imposter syndrome, oh, I have limiting beliefs. And then we're so focused in on the story about that particular block that we're not looking down at all of the other layers that are contributing to why this particular block is so sticky. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I wanted to share that here in this episode because I imagine that there are some people listening who did some really great work around one of their blocks, but it still feels like a rock in the river. It's like, why isn't this moving? And the mushrooms really help me see that like it might not be moving because it's connected to all of these other things that also need attention and love, and compassion, and support. And it needs a bigger clearing. And that felt like really intense, but like really, really good. And now on the other side of that, I'm feeling aware that it's not totally gone, but I'm feeling like I have a lot more distance between me and it, which is really nice. Like I have a lot more room to work now. And I know that I just have to stay committed to continuing to circle back and to be radically honest with myself as a business owner, as a human being, about like what is keeping me stuck. Can I be radically honest and look deep inside to name what it is that's going on for me that needs to be transformed, that needs to be healed so that I can move forward?
Yeah.
That's what I got.
I love that. Yeah. I love how it comes back to that perspective shift again. Like the medicine helps you shift your perspective so you can see from a new viewpoint. And all of a sudden, all of these other layers are revealed that you couldn't see when you were just looking from this one perspective.
It's like the greatest gift of plant medicines, I think, right? Is that they help you see things from, just like you said, totally different angles, totally different perspectives.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. Okay, we could talk about this for ages, but I think we've said enough. We probably even spent a little more time in the reflection portion of this episode than we would normally, but these reflections, they feel really important, that if we can have more open and honest conversations about what our blocks are and how we're moving through them, the other tasks and projects that we have on our plates as business owners just feel so much more easeful.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep coming back to this. We're going to keep having more conversations about personal healing and how it connects to the work that we are doing as business owners. But for now, I feel like we're complete here, and it's time to talk about June. It's time to talk about how we are going to find a balance between play and productivity. So Nancy, let's just circle back to where we started. Anything else that you want to say about that? What it means to you to find balance between play and productivity during the summer months?
So as we were talking about before, like when summer rolls around, I am just like, I just want to play. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm like, I don't want to do any work. I just want to go outside and frolic and swim and do all these fun things. And that's, not super realistic. But one of the things that I do think helps with that is like Like you were saying at the beginning, when we infuse play and pleasure and joy into the work that we're doing, to me, that makes me feel less of that pull. Like it makes me feel less of that tension because I'm inviting those playful feelings into the work that I'm doing, and it's not so differentiated or delineated like, oh, this is work that feels like blah. And after that, I get to go play. It's like, no, let's do a little bit of play in the work and then continue to play afterwards. So yeah, I think that finding that balance makes all of it feel easier.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. It is so many things in our lives are really easy to split into binaries, right? It's like there's work and there's life. There's productivity and there's play, and like never the two shall meet. And that's one of our core values here in this business, is that we just want to erase the line between the professional and the personal so that we can see a more integrated whole, right? We can see a more integrated version of our lives, because we know that like when we're weaving the things that we love personally into our professional lives, into our businesses, we're way less likely to get burnt out, to feel resentful, to say yes to projects that aren't actually aligned with our spirits, with our souls.
Yeah.
We want to find that integration. And I always like to say as a disclaimer that that doesn't mean you don't get to have work-life boundaries, right? Of course you get to have work-life boundaries. Boundaries are important in like every facet of our life. So you can blend together your life and your work, the personal and the professional, in a way that makes it all feel better while still having boundaries around, you know, when your computer is closed and you're spending time with your family, et cetera, et cetera. So that really resonates, that what we want to do here this month is really start to look specifically at play, the element of play, and how can we weave more play into our productive tasks that we need to do in our businesses while also celebrating. So this is another perspective shift, right? There's that resentment like that you are naming, and I feel it too. It's so easy to get resentful in the summer months, being like, oh, I resent my work. I resent my business. Like, I just want to be in the world. I just want to be playing. So we're offering a perspective shift, which is that actually the summer is a really rich time to bring an abundance of creativity and fresh energy and playfulness into your work so that you can move your business forward in a way that feels awesome, feels just like a delight. Like you can get so much shit done in the summer and feel so delighted about it and have so much play in your personal life with your family, with your friends at the same time. That is the intention that we're setting for ourselves this summer and that we want to offer up to our listeners. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so we're going to do that in 3 ways. We're going to look at productivity, we're going to look at play, and then we're going to look at integration. And I'm going to offer up a question for each of these bullet points, if you will. Productivity, play, integration. Productivity, we want you to ask yourself, what business projects do you want to work on this summer? Play, we want you to ask yourself, how do you want to have fun this summer? Integration, we want you to ask yourself, how can I infuse playful energy into my work this summer? So Nancy and I are going to go through each of those questions and we're going to answer them together for ourselves as an example. We're just modeling how this conversation might happen, what it might sound like, knowing that it might sound totally different for you and your life and your business. So this is just us sharing our process as a way to model like how this might go when you start to unpack these questions. Are you ready, Nancy?
So ready. Let's get into it.
Me too. I'm so excited. Productivity. What business projects do you want to work on this summer? Now, you can take this question and interpret it in lots of different ways. I want to think about the business projects that really they feel so fertile. So if we're thinking about our gardens, right? It's like the soil is so fertile right now. Things are growing. And I want to think about projects where there's like room for growth. I want projects right now where I'm going to see a benefit. I'm going to see a result. I'm going to see an impact in the work that I do at the end of the summer. Like that's just what is calling to me in this moment. Maybe for you, it's a project that's more about maintenance, right? Maybe it's a project that's more about starting something brand new from scratch that's going to be like a really long term. You're not going to see results for another year. You choose what kind of project feels most aligned for you in this moment. But for me, it's the projects where like they are ready to receive an injection of creative energy, of vitality. And they are the projects that we've already been talking about and working on this year, this podcast, and planning our next retreat while also creating the infrastructure to turn this business into a container that hosts and holds 4 retreats per year at/around the equinoxes and the solstices. You think, Nancy?
I am very excited about those projects. Like you were saying, they both feel very fertile right now. And it feels like there's just opportunities for possibilities all over the place. So yeah, those are the projects that are feeling really aligned and ready to be focused on.
Yes. Okay, great. So now we know. And of course, behind the scenes, like Nancy, are getting way more granular about it than this. For the sake of time, we won't go into like all of those nitty-gritty details, but I think it's helpful to name like what is the project and then get into the weeds of it a little bit. You know, what's realistic? We have 3 months this summer and you're going to have a lot of personal things on your calendar as well. Be real with yourself. These are the projects that I want to work on. Here's how I want to work on them. Here's what's realistic for me to do or achieve over the next few months while I'm balancing being in the world, being in my life. I think being realistic about the expectations and intentions you're creating is key. Does that feel like, have we said enough about that for now, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can get into the next question.
Play. How do you want to have fun this summer, Nancy?
Oh man, I think for me, the biggest way that I find joy and play is in nature, being outside. I mean, I could just like spend all of my time outside in the summers. So I think for me, finding ways to bring nature in to the everyday kind of activities is the way that I would like to explore more play this summer.
Bringing nature in. That's really
Or maybe it's more me going out.
Ah, yes. Okay. I'm like, okay. I mean, both work. Yeah. You going out. Yeah. Really similarly, summer fun for me is being outside. And that's in large part because Nancy and I live in a place that is really rainy for a lot of the year. And when the sun comes out, like Oregonians are outside. Like it is outside time. Like we waited for this. We earned this. And now, like, let's be in the world. And I feel that too. I just feel this real pull to be in my garden, to be on my paddleboard, to be next to rivers. I feel like a kinship to rivers. And the summer is when that is most accessible for me to go be in and near rivers. Feels so important. I also love outdoor live music. We have a lot of it here. And that brings me so much joy. And in fact, it's funny, like my family's like, are you going to come to visit us this summer? And I am, but I have to like fit my visit in around all of my concert tickets. And for a while, like I felt guilty about that. Like, oh, but then I'm like, no. Like this is an infusion of joy for me in my life. It's an infusion of creative energy that feeds me for the rest of the year. It feeds me through the fall and the winter when art and nature are not as accessible. So I know that these things are so important for my well-being in the moment, but they're also ways that I am fueling my creativity tank for the work that I do in the world. This is where I start to see the blurring of that line. When I'm on my paddleboard on a river or sitting at Topaz Farms at a, summer concert, I am both full of presence and pleasure in the moment, but I am also refilling a well of creativity and love and passion and pleasure that I then, take from for the rest of the year. I don't know that that's the cleanest metaphor, but I think you get where I'm going with it. Really important. I also want to say 2 quick things before we move on to integration, that for me, in the summer, my rest tends to be very active. It is like going to the river spending time outdoors with friends, going to see shows. It's active energy, so I have to make sure that I'm also counterbalancing it with, getting enough sleep and having enough downtime. But deep rest in the summer equals fun for me and my lived experience. So I like to drop that in just to get people thinking about what are the ways that you experience deep rest and restoration and replenishment during the summer months. Drop that into your play category. The second thing is that you and I we did this last summer. We decided to do it again this summer, which is that starting the week after summer solstice, we take Fridays off until fall equinox. And we set the intention that we are still working on Fridays. And the work that we're doing is having fun outside. Mm-hmm. And that's just a perspective shift, right? It's easy to be oh, I'm not working on Fridays. Perspective shift. Well, I am working, and my job on Fridays is to go outside and have fun and to really experience the refilling of the well so that when we come back in, we have joy and love and appreciation for the projects that we're putting our energy into, which kind of leads us into the third pillar here of integration. How can I infuse playful energy into my work this summer? How can I blur this line and bring all of these pieces together? We're already talking about some ways that we're doing that, but let's give some other specific examples, Nancy, of how we are infusing playful energy into the work that we're doing this summer.
Well, one example that is pretty tangible and just recent for me, when we're doing some work on the podcast, I think we've talked about that in previous episodes, but as part of that, I was listening to a marketing audiobook. And one thing about me is that I tend to be able to think a little more deeply when my body is doing something else, kind of unrelated to what I'm thinking about. And so one of the ways that I kind of infuse a little bit of play into that, learning about marketing, which sounds really dry and kind of boring. Newsflash, it was fascinating. But I was listening to that while I had my hands in the garden and my hands were in the dirt and I was pulling weeds or clearing out some rocks from a garden bed or whatever it was. I was just had my hands in the dirt while I was doing this cognitive work task. And that felt really joyful and playful. Mm-hmm. And I was not only does it feel joyful and playful, but I felt like I was able to absorb more of the information and really think about it on a deeper level than if I was just I just have to focus on this marketing thing right now, Yes. That's one recent example. Trying to if there's something that I can listen to that I don't have to be in front of a computer for, taking a walk if it's nice out while listening, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Taking dance breaks when I feel a little too bogged down, yes. Or if I just need a little bit of a reset, just stepping away from the screen for 5 minutes, putting on a good song. And
I love to just going, working outside. And this could be a really simple perspective shift. For me,
for sure.
I'm in my office right now, which is in the basement of my house. And during the winter, who cares? My basement is the same vibes as outside. But in the spring and the summer, I start resenting being down here in the dark basement. And then I have to remind myself, take your laptop and go sit in your backyard. It's so simple, right? Go do emails in the backyard, go to a park. Sometimes I'll take my computer and go to a park and just sit and do whatever I need to do. Obviously, when we're seeing clients, recording podcast episodes, there's, less flexibility. But I think the question, well, I'm from Texas, you're from Louisiana. We also know the landscapes where it would be are you kidding me? It's miserable outside. I am not going to take my laptop outside. Okay, fine. But what does summer give to you in the place where you live? That's the question that we're offering up. What turns you on during the summer months, and how can you weave more of that into your work process? We might experiment with having some meetings on our paddle boards, in the garden, in the backyard, going on walks. So nature is important. So let's weave in more nature. Creativity is important. Let's weave in more creativity. Get deeply curious about how you can weave the things that you love about this season into the way that you're working during this season so we can feel that sense of alignment in everything that we're doing. That is when the magic happens. Like when you feel that alignment, you start to love your work again and you don't feel resentful of this business that you started for freedom and has somehow morphed into a thing that is just draining you dry. We are offering up some suggestions this summer to help you come back into yourself to find that alignment so that you can really reap the fruits of your labor, like you can really enjoy everything that your business wants to offer to you, and infusing a playful energy into your work in whatever way that is going to look like for you. Like that is the key to the kingdom. So we're going to leave it there. We're going to offer this up. What business projects do you want to work on this summer? How do you want to have fun this summer? How can you infuse playful energy into your work this summer? These are all intention-setting questions, and we really want you to take some time to answer them for yourself. If you feel like sharing your ideas with Nancy and I, we would love to hear them. You can always email us, Megan@meganmeganson.com or Nancy@meganmeganson.com. We would love to hear, like, what are you doing? Specifically, the integration question. Like, how are you going to infuse playful energy into your work? We would love to hear what perspectives you are using to answer these questions. I want to be inundated with people's creative ideas. I want to receive like so many emails, Nancy, in our inboxes that make us go like, holy shit, like we never thought about that. Like that's such a great idea. Or like, whoa, look at this perspective. Like how unique. And if we get these responses from y'all, we can share some of the things that came up in our July episode when we're doing our review for this month. Like let's just inspire each other with all of our creative ideas and perspectives about how we can balance productivity and play in our lives and in our businesses this summer. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that. I love that collaboration of sharing all this together. And I would also just like to offer, if you're feeling a little stuck on the integration piece and not really feeling like you can see how to infuse play, like maybe give yourself a gentle perspective change. Maybe lie on the floor for a minute and think about it again. Maybe stand on a chair and think about it again. Maybe, so just finding ways to give yourself a gentle perspective shift and see what other things appear and emerge in a new point of view.
Yes. Thank you for that suggestion. Nancy and I did this exercise with our mastermind group, The Council, last week. And it was so juicy just to be like, we picked a problem or a question. It's like, lie on the floor, dance to this song, do jumping jacks, like just to be silly, to like bring this playfulness in. And it was really incredible to watch these shifts that our clients were having. And we did this over like 15 minutes. And in the shifts that were happening in that short amount of time were really just kind of profound. So to think that we could have 3 months to play with these shifts, like, wow, what might we discover about ourselves and about our businesses if we dedicate our entire summer to shifting our perspective and looking for fresh inspiration?
Love it.
Love it. Okay. Well, we are coming to the end of our June episode. And we would love to wrap up by letting you all know what's going on in the Deeply Rested world over the next couple of months, how you can work with Nancy and I more directly if you are interested in that. And one thing we want to share is an idea that is still unfolding for us, but we feel excited. There's a playfulness about it, so we're throwing it out there. Nancy and I decided, just the two of us, to do a summer solstice ritual together. Summer solstice is on Friday, June 20th. So we decided, hey, let's go to a park here in Portland. And this will be our last Friday quote in the office. And let's do a ritual, a summer ritual for our lives, for our businesses, as a way to really step fully with intention into the summer months. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and with this like a burst of joy and this thought of being like, we should just invite people to join us. why just me and you? Like, we're going to a park. Anybody can come. So if you live in Portland or the surrounding area and you want to join Nancy and I at a park on Friday, June 20th, we don't know the exact time yet. It'll be like midday probably, to do a summer solstice life and business ritual. We would love for you to come hang out with us for a few hours. If you're interested, send me an email. We're not going to say publicly where we're going because that's probably just not a great idea. But if you're interested, email me, Megan@meganmeganson.com. Let me know, hey, I'm curious. I'd like to join y'all. And then we'll send you the details. And you can meet us at the park and we will play and do some really beautiful ritual to usher us into the summer season. That's thing number one. Thing number two, I am currently booking clients for my 3-month private mentorship offering called Catalyst. And I book clients seasonally. So starting in late June, early July, I'll be kicking off with a new round of private clients for the summer season. So if you are feeling the high energy of this season, if you are feeling a readiness inside of yourself to bring the next level of your vision of your life to life, and you want my support and guidance in doing that, now is the time to let me know. You can read all of the details about my mentorship offering, and you can book a free discovery call with me so that we can meet each other and see if it feels like a good fit and the right time. And you can find that at deeplyrested.com/coaching. And finally, the details for our October retreat will be announced so soon. Save the date if you're interested. October 9th through 13th, we will gather about an hour outside of Portland. And the next step will be sharing the details with our current clients. I always get first dibs on our retreat spots. And if there are spaces available after that, we will share all of the details with our Deeply Rested newsletter. If you're not on the newsletter yet, would love to have you there. deeplyrested.com/newsletter. Keep your eyes peeled. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be announcing all of the details. It's going to be fiery this season. We are all about reigniting our passion and our vision for our businesses at this moment in time. And we would love to work some magic with you deep in the Pacific Northwest forest. So that's what we've got. Summer solstice ritual in the park, virtual 3-month private mentorship, Catalyst, next retreat happening in October here in the Pacific Northwest. Nancy, any parting words?
I mean, here's to some joy and play this summer.
Here's to joy and play. Thank you all so much for being here, being with us. We will talk to you again next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Deeply Rested. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would love to invite you to join the Deeply Rested weekly newsletter. You can sign up at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. I hope to meet you in my inbox very soon.